Hey everybody, welcome back to the Storytime channel. My name is Steven, and let's get into our stories of the day. I do work here, but not for you. This took place some 20 years ago, so my memory may be a bit hazy and one or the other details may escape me. I was working as an intern for a manufacturing company that would make car accessories. This was in their global headquarters. Once a year, they would have large conferences with some 200 attendees from the international offices in different countries. This was a 4-day thing that would have almost the entire conference area of the hotel we were hosting in occupied. The large room was set up as an auditorium, and this is where all the presentation related to the best sellers, changes in assortment, novelties, marketing guidelines, etc. would be presented. Then we had 3 more rooms. A relatively small one we used as storage and back office, and 2 other rooms that had items on display. One room was such that the windows to the outside were floor to ceiling and could open so that a car would fit through them and could be driven in through the fire department access lane that ran outside the building. So in this one room there were 3 cars that had various accessories mounted in or on them for display purposes. I was on duty to man one of the rooms while open to the attendees, and spent the remaining time stocking merchandise baskets in the main conference room and giving the hotel catering a heads up when a segment was 10 minutes away from finishing so they could roll out the food and drinks to be ready as people poured out of the main conference room. While the conference was in recess, the attendees were meant to enter these display rooms and look at the items on show, as they may have been presented during one of the segments of the conference itself. Many of these pieces were novelties being shown before being released to market, so they were not meant to be seen by people outside the company. On 2 days where this conference took place, other companies had meetings going on in other rooms. So the conference area couldn't be closed off from the main hotel lobby, and anyone who wanted to inspect could walk into the conference area. Normally, this was not a problem, because nobody who was not working there would look at a deserted corridor, and when people were out, it was obvious this was a closed group. But one day, during one of the breaks, a family, father and 2 sons, of tourists wandered in, and they went into the room with the 3 cars and the accessories on display mounted on them. It was pretty close to the end of the break, so there was a lot of movement, but they could easily be made out, as children and a man with a faded t-shirt and shorts stuck out in a sea of suits. I saw them as one of the kids was making a straight line for one of the cars that had color-changing interior mood lighting and underfloor lighting installed. The color-changing bit was for display purposes, but I digress. As the room was soon going to be closed off anyway, I was prepared with the key fobs to lock the cars up before turning off the lights and locking the room. Before he could climb in and mess with the light system, partially installed so mounting could be visible to the attendees, I shut the car door and locked it, making the kid stop in his tracks and make a face. Before he could run off to the other cars, I dashed over to those and repeated the locking up operation there as well. And none too soon, I may add, because Daddy was already there trying a door and barking at me to open a car for his kids to see. The following dialogue, not verbatim, ensued. "Sir, this is not a public display. You and your children will have to leave."
"Open these cars, would ya? What's the harm in my kids having a look at the pretty lights?"
Again, this is not a public display. This is a private convention for invited attendees only. Please leave. He was getting really close to me, which was funny because I must have been a good 50 centimeters taller than him. His kids also now went to his side, as they must have sensed something was not right. I decided that the best thing to do was to slowly walk into him and get him out the door, while he argued with me that I should let his kids get into the cars and play with the lights. The conference attendees had already left for the next segment of the presentation in the other room. He continued with me being so rude, being nasty to his kids for no reason, and I kept repeating that this was all lovely, but that I was working for the company that was hosting the conference, and that the items on display were not meant for the general public. The moment I had them over the threshold, I pulled the conference room door shut behind me, and as soon as it latched closed, I slipped off to a side and made my way to the waiters that were disassembling the buffet and asked them if they could help me return these people to the lobby as they were not attendees. This is when Daddy went all indignant and told me I had terrible customer service and that he will be making a complaint. And I turned around and replied, "Sir, I don't work for you or this hotel. I don't care if you think I'm rude to you and you want to make a complaint about me at the desk. All I want is for you to get lost from a space my company rented and you have no business being in." He then got really upset and started cursing at me. But the waiters took over and escorted him away from the conference room area, and I returned to the back office to put the key fobs away and then returned to the conference room with the cars to check that everything was in order and switch off the lights. As I was leaving the conference room, the manager for the conferencing spaces came to apologize, and I told her that it wasn't her fault and that I hoped the guy didn't cause much of a scene. She didn't reply to that, but told me that they would be posting someone at the entry from the lobby to the conference area for the remaining breaks that were planned for that day. It definitely sounds like a nightmarish scenario. Kids already want to get their hands all over stuff that they shouldn't, but this dad was also actively encouraging it. Have you ever seen examples of bad parenting like this? If so, let me know your story in the comments section down below. That's not what furniture covers are for. I've been enjoying this sub during lockdown, sometimes reading it and sometimes listening to it on a YouTube channel. It was my late mom's birthday yesterday. May she rest in peace, she died in 1998. And I remembered this story she told and thought, I could give something back to this community by sharing it. It didn't actually occur in the business in question, but I hope it more or less fits this sub. When my mom was not long married, perhaps in the 1940s or 50s, she was at home one morning when the phone rang. My mom answered the phone as she taught us to answer it by stating the phone number and saying, "Who's calling, please?" The caller, a posh and angry-sounding woman, gave her name and, unasked, her address in a very well-heeled part of the city. And the conversation continued something like this. "Your man has not arrived yet. It's not good enough. When will he get here?" "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "Oh, for pity's sake, girl, the decorator. He was supposed to be here half an hour ago." "I'm sorry, you must have the wrong number. This is a private home. What number did you call?" "Don't ask me impertinent questions. I know very well that is name of house decorating company. Stop stalling, you stupid girl, and just tell me when he will get here. Or send someone else at once." "I'm sorry, but this really is..." "I'm sitting here with my covers on." "Then I hope they keep you warm." And Mom hung up. Rest in peace, Mom. This was a good mom, direct, to the point, and not wanting to take any BS. Rest in peace. "No, ma'am, I'm not a valet. This happened to me yesterday when I was at work at my security job." Story. Okay, so this just happened to me yesterday. I work as security at one of our gated communities here in Florida on the beach. My duties include watching over the pool via camera, answering the phone, and checking visitors and contractors into the community. Our uniforms consist of black or gray pants and white shirts, but I wear gray shirts because I'm the supervisor. There is nothing on my uniform that says valet. Well, yesterday I was in my office doing my work, and this lady comes in, and while I'm getting her information so I can make her permit, she says, "Okay, so you get my permit and then you park the car?" I correct her and say, "No ma'am, I'm not a valet, I'm security. I only need to make you a permit, and once you get it, you can park your car." And then I explain where to park. She then asks me why I can't park it for her, and her friend that she was there to visit told her that I wasn't a valet and that we didn't have valet parking here. This lady then stated that I should do my job and park her car. I then told her that it's not my job and that she needed to move her car as a line was backed up. She got in her car and sped off and almost hit someone, so she ended up being asked to leave. Some people are just so ignorant and entitled, it's just scary. It seems like these kinds of people get an idea in their head that they want somebody to do, and no matter what, that person is at fault in their mind if they didn't do the thing you wanted them to do. It might not be in your job, but you're the valet now. Why can't you just park my car? 'Cause it's not my job. Smart Bud Me deals with a rude Karen. So as a preface, I may have shared this story here before a while back. I don't remember if I did. But it is kind of funny, so I figured I would share it anyway. Another thing you need to know is I have some severe anxiety issues. But this story happened maybe 6 or 7 years ago before I developed the problem, so I was a bit more brazen back then. Anyway, I was shopping at the Big Blue store famous for their selection of Karens when I passed by this sweet little old lady. She asked me to grab a case of soda off the top shelf. This is nothing new because I'm 6'6", and people ask me a lot to do stuff like this. I also live life by the golden rule you were taught as a child. Treat those how you want to be treated. I got the soda for the sweet old lady and asked her if she needed any more help. She declined and thanked me, so I started to walk away to grab the other things on my list. As I walked down the aisle looking at my list, trying to decide where I should head next, I heard 2 words shouted at presumably me. "You boy!" I look up and see this abomination of a Karen sneering at me. She had the classic haircut, probably weighed more than me as an already overweight super tall giant, in leopard print leggings and a shirt that was being tortured by being worn by someone who was most likely 3 sizes too big for it. She had only said 2 words to me and I already didn't like her. Remember how I said live by the golden rule? Well, that works both ways. And since she was rude out of the gate, that must mean she wants to be treated rudely also. I just wasn't exactly sure how to be rude to her yet. "Get that soda off the top shelf for me now, I'm in a hurry," she said to me while her volume was turned up to 11. So I said, as a smart butt, "I don't work here. If you want me to help you, I'm gonna need to hear a please first." She shrieked, "Obviously you work here, I just saw you help that other witch." Wow. Just wow. Now she insulted that sweet old lady after being rude to me. Then I decided what I would do, based entirely off of what would be the funniest thing to do. "Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Which soda did you want again?" She pointed aggressively at a case of Fresca on the very top shelf. I grabbed the case off of the shelf and went to hand it to her. She muttered, "Finally." Right before she grabbed it from me, I quickly put it back on the top shelf, and without looking at her, just slowly walked away to do the rest of my shopping. She shrieked a bit about finding my manager and getting me fired, but I was just giggling to myself. I ended up taking my sweet time shopping, hoping she would show up again with a manager, just so she would embarrass herself more, but I never saw her again. I wonder how her family reacted to hearing the story of the rude idiot Walmart employee she encountered that day. That's actually an interesting perspective to bring up. Since the Karen didn't have any follow-up, there's gonna be this whole alternate reality in her mind that she proclaims to other people about Walmart and their awful employees that won't help them and tease them and are rude and blah blah blah. Lady, I'm off the clock. The one thing I hate about Karens is that they don't have a concept of off the clock. On a semi-regular basis, I will be at work shopping once I am done for the day. On these days, I will bring a shirt with me and change so I am no longer in uniform while shopping. However, there are some great customers who just don't care I'm not in uniform and am pushing a cart full of stuff or carrying a basket and still ask for help. Now, the majority of the people are nice about it, and so I don't mind helping them. However, occasionally I'll get someone who recognizes I am an employee and gets all offended that even though I am not wearing our shirt, I did not jump to help them. Then gets in my business complaining about how disrespectful I am. To which I reply, I am clearly not on the clock, it is not my job to help you right now, and had you not been so rude, I would have helped you. If you're having such a hard time, go to the register and the cashier will get someone to help you. How dare you not be in uniform and also are blatantly shopping on your own personal time? Because you're an employee at this establishment, although you're not working at this very time, you are a slave to me. Okay, never mind. You don't even care about customers. I had just gotten off work at the local hospital and was looking for leave-in conditioner at the nearby big store that killed all the mom and pop shops. You know the one. Smelling different products, reading labels, Slav squatting on the floor. Up rolls Sharon on a scooter. Older, less physically mobile version of Karen. "Where's the price on this ring? Why don't you people do this better so people can see?" It took me a second to realize she was asking me. I look up. "Oh, forget it. You probably don't even care about your customers." At that point, I stood up, clearly wearing a full set of hospital scrubs. Like, why would you think I work here? Cocked my head to the side and said, "You're right, ma'am, I sure don't," and walked off. What the freak? What about my clothing, posture, actions led this woman to even remotely thinking I was working retail? I'd have to be the worst employee, basically hiding and not doing my job, or wearing my uniform. Funny thing is that I worked retail during undergrad, and I cannot stand b-holes like this lady. If she were my patient or in a medical emergency, I would do everything in my scope to help her, but that ain't it, chief. It felt good to let her know not everyone gives a freak what she thinks she needs in this setting. How are you gonna see scrubs at like a Walmart and assume that they work there? I would assume Sharon on the scooter is probably a frequent customer of Walmart. I feel like she would be able to understand by now who the employees are and what they look like. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is, which of these stories was your personal favorite of the day and why? Let me know which story and why in the comments section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Thank you all again so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.